So you're thinking about leaving Canada and moving down here as an expatriate to the natural state of Arkansas. My friend, I have found in my real estate career that so many people move for hundreds of different reasons. Most of them are trying to leave some type of pain and move to some type of pleasure. It could be a job transfer. It could be lower cost of living. It could be a better way of life. Maybe you're looking to trade in your hockey, maple syrup, and Tim Hortons for a little Razorback football, Onyx coffee, a bit more of a warmer climate. My friend, if we haven't had the pleasure of meeting, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Anthony Mosley, and I'm a local real estate broker right here in the northwest corner of Arkansas. Before we get into the video, you should know that a lot of my stories and information come from why people move all over the world, Canada, Mexico, to northwest Arkansas. Maybe not the entire state, because from one point of Arkansas, where I live in the Bentonville area, to other parts, or maybe central or southeast Arkansas, could be completely different in regards to amenities, cost of living, and multiple other factors that you might be considering. This is actually my first video in comparing why somebody might leave one country to come down to the natural state of Arkansas. I've done multiple videos on different states, of course, but some of that's going to play into what we're going to talk about today. So whether you're coming from Vancouver, Winnipeg, Calgary, Toronto, Montreal, or somewhere in between like Edmonton, all the way down here to the natural state, it has to be very specific to your particular situation. Understand that wherever you're coming from, it might be completely different in Toronto versus Calgary, all the way down here to Bentonville versus Little Rock or Mountain Home as an example. Nobody really likes to talk about politics too much, but let's go ahead and address that real quick. There in Canada, as you know, you have multiple different political parties, whereas here in the United States, we really have two, maybe kind of three political parties. You should understand, of the last 25 to 50 years, Arkansas has tended to be more of a red state being a conservative state. Other than Jimmy Carter in the 70s and Bill Clinton in the 90s.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Arkansas has consistently voted Republican. The other big elephant in the room is our currencies are different. That being said, throughout the video, I'm going to make sure numbers are comparable, so they're not in Canadian dollars versus US dollars. They're all one across the board, so our numbers are most comparable. Another major comparison between Canada and Arkansas is, according to Worldometer, there are 40 million people that live in the entire country of Canada. You may or may not know that the natural state of Arkansas is quite spread out, and we only have a population of just over 3 million people, whereas some of your cities have 3 million people in them. So we're not even 1/10 of the size of your entire country. But again, country compared to US state. And last but not least, the cities that I had mentioned earlier in the video have quite a bit more going on than Bentonville, Arkansas, but usually those bigger cities are more comparison in cost of living here in the Bentonville area. Either way, as you're doing your research, I hope that you're finding this information valuable and useful. I might not be able to compare all the details that you're looking for, but let's certainly reach out, have a conversation if moving from Canada to Arkansas is right for you. You might be scratching your head and saying, why are people moving to Arkansas in the first place, let alone from Canada to Arkansas? Well, we are centrally located in the United States. We're one of the most cost-effective states to live in the United States. Again, depending on region where you end up, it might be more cost-effective in a different part of the state. But it being centrally located, we have a temperate climate here. Here in Arkansas, we do have the traditional 4 seasons of summer, fall, winter, and spring each year. Some a little bit extended longer than others sometimes. For instance, this year, the shooting of this video, we actually have a spring this year. Spring is our rainiest time of year where we receive most of our rainfall here in northwest Arkansas. Each year we receive about 55 inches of rainfall. Hold on a second. That's about 140 centimeters of rainfall each year. And in the winter months, we receive about 9 inches of snow, or around 28 centimeters of snowfall on average each year. You might be thinking, holy cow, I can shovel that in a morning. Or you might be thinking, holy cow, that's just like a typical snowfall on a regular winter day here in Canada. Of course, we don't have as much of a diverse elevation as you do there in Canada, with the Rocky Mountains stretching all the way up there on the west side. And of course, here in Arkansas, we don't have mountains, skiing and snowmobiling or dog sled races. Definitely don't have pond hockey here in Arkansas. If any of the lakes do freeze, it's certainly not thick enough for any pond hockey, ice fishing, or even going out on the ice at all. I would not recommend that. Either way, it's a trade-off, as you can imagine, getting away from maybe those harsh winters and coming down to a more temperate climate. It's my understanding that many Canadians end up moving to the northeast of the United States, like Maine, Massachusetts, and Maryland. In fact, according to World Population Review, most Canadians end up moving to Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. Only 1929 registered former Canadians live in the natural state of Arkansas. Of course, many Canadians also choose to move towards California, Washington, and even Florida. What I want to help you get ahead of, my friend, is many of those people are also leaving those states, not just Canadians, but also many Americans who have lived in the Northeast have moved down to Florida, and even people are exiting Florida because of heavy population growth and cost of living has increased significantly. So they're leaving the Northeast, Florida and California and Arizona, and coming to the central part of the country because, again, cost of living is lower, it's centrally located, and they can still enjoy many perks of life. A lot of people retire here in Arkansas. There's a movement called FIRE, which stands for Financially Independent and Retiring Early. Maybe you there in Canada are saying, hey, you know what? We're ready to retire. We're not going to be earning an income anyway. Let's go and retire and be expats, live in Arkansas or somewhere else in the United States. But this video is about Arkansas. Many of the folks that are looking to retire here, a lot of their concern is healthcare. You might be looking at the entire state of Arkansas, but let's talk a moment for Northwest Arkansas. We have a few different medical systems that are here. Recently, Alice Walton School of Medicine is opening, and the Whole Health Institute has recently opened here in Northwest Arkansas over by Crystal Bridges Museum. As you know, there in Canada, you have national healthcare. What I'm hearing, though, from other YouTubers and other research that I've done is, although your healthcare is a lot more affordable than ours, getting into a family doctor, getting in to see a specialist might take you a very long time. Whereas here in the United States, we have maybe not as great of healthcare, and it's something that is more expensive on the front end, but you can see a specialist and you can get in to see a doctor a lot faster. I've heard a few stories about folks there in Canada that have waited, unfortunately, too long to go see a specialist, and they've passed away in the meantime, waiting in order to see that specialist. Cultures are different. There in Canada, I believe you guys have a better and maybe slower way of life, a culture of balance. Whereas here in the United States, depending on where you are in the country, of course, our bigger cities like New York and San Francisco, there's a big push to work all the time. Oh, you are at home, that means you can work. Whereas I believe the culture there in Canada is very much, hey, take your time off. Go and enjoy time with your family. Go and recharge so that you can be more efficient when you're back here at work. Whereas here in the United States, again, it could very well be, no, you can't take that time off, or you're taking too much time off and you're not being effective here at work. Well, I happen to believe that where you guys are coming from is a lot more efficient of a process. So if you are still working and you are looking to move down to the US, whether it's through a work visa, whether it's through a student visa, whether you're retiring, what have you, the way of life here in the United States very well could push you towards a busier type of schedule if you're not careful. Of course, a big item that might be in your consideration in moving is cost of living. So because we're comparing maybe some very large cities there in Canada to maybe a more expensive city here in Arkansas, I've compared Toronto, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, Montreal, all to Bentonville, Arkansas on the scale of cost of living. In regards to housing, Nesto.ca said that Toronto is 7% more expensive than Bentonville. Edmonton is 8.5% cheaper than Bentonville. Calgary is coming in at 4.4% more expensive than Bentonville. And again, we're talking about housing, which I'm going to dispel here in a moment. Vancouver, they say, is 7.3% more expensive than Bentonville. Montreal is 5.9% cheaper than Bentonville. Now, my friend, these are all percentages and not actual costs. In many of my comparison videos, we talk about actual costs. So understanding those numbers, if I didn't tell you specifically what they're comparing, you might say, oh, well, Toronto is so much more expensive than Bentonville. That's not necessarily the case, because what they're comparing is a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment in Toronto versus a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment in Bentonville. there are probably thousands and thousands of apartments in Toronto, Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, what have you. Whereas here in Bentonville, we have a lot more single-family homes, maybe even duplexes or townhomes. But as far as apartment complexes, there aren't that many apartments in Bentonville in order to compare to. So yeah, those numbers can be completely off. So what I did then is broke it down a little bit further, and we're gonna pop up a chart that shows you actual single-family homes in those respective cities compared to here in Bentonville. And I'll also break it down property tax as well. Again, according to nesto.ca, let's go ahead and pop up this next chart, which is going to show you Toronto, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and Montreal as far as what the average single-family home sale price was as of recent. You can see Toronto, of course, being very expensive, and Vancouver being very expensive also in comparison to Calgary, Edmonton, and Montreal, respectively. Now, on this website, believe it or not, I could not find, after scouring through it, if these numbers are in Canadian dollars or in US dollars, so I took the conversion rate of about 0.72 at the day I shot this video, as far as comparison-wise. Let's go ahead and change those numbers, James, from Canadian dollars to US dollars. Now that we have those numbers all converted over, the average sale price as of recent for a single-family home in Bentonville, Arkansas was $475,406. So as you can see, in comparison to many of the larger cities, Bentonville's home prices are actually half the cost on average of a home there in those larger cities. Let me convert Bentonville number back into Canadian dollars. That $475,406 US is closer to 660,000 Canadian. Now, what I didn't do for you, my friend, because I don't know where you're coming from, these are more blanket statements. Are you comparing a 4-bedroom home there to a 3-bedroom home here? I don't know if that average home at each one of those respective Canadian cities are a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage, or if it's a 4-bed, 3-bath, 3-car garage on a 1/4 acre. Something also to consider as far as your major housing expenses is property tax. The average property tax in Bentonville for a single-family home is around $5,657, or 7,856 Canadian dollars. Depending on your situation, maybe you want to move to Arkansas and you want to live in an RV. Maybe you want to move to Arkansas and you want to buy a lot and build. That is all specific to your particular situation. It'd be my pleasure to help you understand the idiosyncrasies to your specific situation there in Canada and what it might look like here in Arkansas, more specifically Northwest Arkansas. Of course, a lot of this wraps into quality of life. What are you looking to move away from there in Canada in order to move towards here in Arkansas? My friend, it's always a pleasure to put this information together for you. Now you know a little bit more about what life is like here in Arkansas and Bentonville. Thanks for watching.